So first off, thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Morgan Hughes and I'm the event and project manager for South Dakota Specialty Producers Association. I just want to thank you all for joining and being willing to discuss regional aggregation and learn more about current opportunities and resources. First, I would like to note that our ability to host this series of regional meetings is supported through a specialty crop block grant that SDSPA received through the South Dakota Department of Ag and Natural Resources. Today we have two speakers here to discuss different opportunities, and after each presenter there will be time for questions, and after the second presentation I have a series of resources and opportunities and projects in development that I'll go over, and we'll have some time at the end for discussing current challenges, ideas, and interests regarding regional aggregation. So to get started, I'm going to pass it over to Cindy and get her presentation shared.
Great. Thanks, Morgan, for the introduction, and thanks also for putting this together. So, well, I was the president at for SPA for years. One of the things that I constantly heard was that producers needed assistance with marketing, aggregation, distribution, essentially putting them in connection with consumers. And so as the owner of Sturgis Meats, I started doing that on the meat side at Sturgis Meats. And then I decided that I would, once I stepped down from being the president of SPA and had more time, I would start an initiative to do that on just a local food side period throughout South Dakota. And so what we did was I own the building downtown where some of you on the west side have certainly been to the Bashful Bison market that Scott Brinker runs. That's my building. And Scott moved over to the Hay Camp Brewing Company. And so I decided, instead of doing something different with that building, that I was going to turn it into a farmer's market, CSA, local foods restaurant, kind of a music venue, art venue, and essentially, a community kitchen and a community collective for local foods. And we called it the Diamond D Collective. And it's right on Main Street Square at 523 Main Street. And so the whole mission is to aggregate consumers and producers around a variety of different things. And then we're pulling in the arts community with music and art, just so we have kind of a well-rounded community effort. And so, like with our local foods pop-up events, we have local music and that type of thing. So Morgan, could you do the next slide? All right, so this is kind of a snapshot of what we're trying to do at the collective. The local foods cafe, we're actually having, a cafe with normal hours that serves local foods. And then we have a farmer's market that's year-round. It's open every day that the collective is open. And the goal on the collective is to be open every day. Right now we're open 4 days a week. But that'll be changing here starting probably next week and into the summer. And then we have music art pop-ups. And that is basically, we're a venue for musicians that want to come and play music. We pair them up with our chef pop-up events. And then we're also featuring some local artists that are doing art gallery, displays and showing off their art in places, in a place that they may not have an opportunity to do it elsewhere. So chef pop-ups are a big deal for us, featuring local foods. And our building is kid friendly. We have a little kids play area. We have two different sides to it. We have a event center, kind of an event gathering space on both sides, and then we can open it up into one side as one whole building as well. So it's a pretty interesting space. As I mentioned, I built it specifically for the community. And this was an event we did about 10 days ago with Scott Brinker. He hosted a fine dining venue using our meat and a bunch of local foods. And we brought in a local musician at the event as well. And everybody loved it. It was a sellout. The musician was great. She had great tips. I mean, it was really a wonderful thing. And Scott had a great evening with really good food. And so our next pop-up event is coming up April 11th. And then we have Chef Taylor Roberts is doing the music event. And then we have Angel Anthony Cope that's playing acoustic guitar for that event. And then on the 27th, we have the Silk Road Experience Pakistani restaurant from Hot Springs coming up and doing a pop-up at the Diamond D. So we have that's going to be kind of we're going to do these chef pop-ups as frequently as possible. Okay, next one. Okay, so Saturdays we're going to be our CSA pickup day and a farmer's market and an all-day event. So we're going to start with brunch, and then we have a chef pop-up dinner on Saturdays, and we're going to have music events all day and events for kids. And so it'll be the day that the CSA members can come pick up their stuff. And if producers want to play, they can do a meet and greet that day and meet, their customers at the CSA. And again, family friendly, focusing on art, music, and food. So that's just what the venue looks like. So again, I'm the owner. I've got Chef Taylor Roberts, who's going to be in charge of the CSA and the vendors and the cafe. He's also in charge of the chef pop-ups and the commercial kitchen. And then Corey Bisbo is in charge of the cafe and the CSA. And also she's an artist, so she's going to be in charge of the art and music pop-up events. So currently, our scheduled hours are going to be Thursday through Sunday, 10 to 8, Monday through Wednesday brunch, 9 to 2. And so it'll be, some diverse offerings throughout that period of time. But I think it's something that's needed, not only West River, but it would be great. I don't know if there's something like this East River or even in the middle of the state, but I think these kind of aggregation centers are a pretty good idea for aggregating local consumers and producers. So we're looking for producers that want to get involved with us. And I think the next slide just talks about the details. We're opening this up to all producers statewide in South Dakota. And there's only just a couple of requirements. One is the food has to be clean. I'm not going to do anything with GMO or pesticides or herbicides. And so it has to be clean food because that's what we do. And that's what our customers demand. And so that's a very important piece. So clean foods, the vendor fees are going to be $250 a month. And with that vendor fee amount, you get the use of a commercial kitchen, and it's a really good kitchen. It used to be a Botticelli's Italian restaurant, so it's a really awesome kitchen. You get 4 free hours included in that fee for the month, and then extra hours are available at reduced rates. And then the cool thing about it is all you have to do is stock your inventory and we sell it for you. So you just have to get the product there and we get it out. And then we just take a 10% per sale off of your retail price. And that covers us for credit card fees, sales tax. So we take care of the sales tax. We take care of any delivery fees associated with getting the product to the consumer and the credit card fees. So it's basically a kind of at cost fee structure. And then the other thing that's really cool about it is we include marketing with the $250 vendor fee. We've got a marketer, Colton Hall, who's doing all of our marketing for us, and he will include your producer products in our marketing stream to, he gets the word out. He's really good. And then he's also making his services available to anybody who vends with us. Like if you want more marketing, then he's going to provide. He's basically going to showcase you as one of our vendors and just kind of keep you on top of everybody's eyeballs. But if you want more intensive stuff, he's going to offer a reduced fee on his marketing to $100 a vendor per month if people want to do more. But I think for what Colton's going to do, I think his marketing that it's included with our $250 a month for most people would be adequate. And then the last thing that you're going to get is space in the market, obviously. We've got cold storage, we've got freezer space, we've got refrigerator space, we've got dry space. So there's shelf space. We have packaging equipment, professional packaging equipment, so you can vacuum seal, you can roll stock, you can label your products so they're professional. And those are things that not a lot of people have available to them. So having the commercial kitchen, having packaging, having labeling, having marketing, having a set, market available. I think these are all the things that producers need in the state in order to, have them commit to growing more food for customers year round. Now, I will also say that at Sturgis Meats with Evergreen Ranching, we already supply a ton of wholesale customers. And so one of the things we're also going to be doing is opening up these offerings to wholesale customers. So if you wanted to, as a producer, be involved in our wholesale market, that would be awesome. And wholesale meaning not just, restaurants and stores and stuff, but, we're going to start looking at farm to school programs as well. So that's something that we're going to take the legwork out of it for the producer and basically make it turnkey for producers to get involved with these programs. So a lot of benefits. We have chef events that'll feature your items, aggregation. One of the things I did write a grant for this last round of funding through Timothy, and I'm hoping he funds it. And Timothy, if you're on this call, it'd be awesome if you would fund it. But we applied for more freezer space and refrigeration space, plus a blast freezer and a freeze dryer, which I think is great for the produce folks that are using the commercial kitchen, the vendors, because it'll increase the seasonality for your products. So anyway, I don't want to take up too much time, but this is just kind of a snapshot of what we're going to be doing. If you want more information, I'm easy to find either there at the Diamond D Collective or my standard evergreenranching@gmail.com email address. And anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing what Anna's going to talk about, and then we'll reconvene for any questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Cindy. So I actually
Yeah,
have it
go-
laid out that if there is any questions now, we can ask them before we move on to
Oh,
Anna.
cool.
Just so it's all fresh in our minds. So if any of I'm gonna allow all the attendees.
Oh, Rachel, CSA. I'll
And
get you the info.
if any of you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat or unmute.
No, and Taylor's on. Chef Taylor. That's great. Taylor, do you want to add anything?
No, I'm just like excited. I like it's kind of evolving and from where we met a couple weeks ago, and it's just kind of just seeing it all come together. I'm excited. I think the area needs it, especially on the western part of the state. Especially with all the tourists coming through. It's good to like just show them that we are not just all factory farms. And that there is like local produce here and people like to take stuff home too. It's like the aggregation and just having products that people can bring home that are made in South Dakota and have that label on it, and like it's important. So,
Yeah,
I'm
agreed.
excited.
Yeah, and then we can support, projects like Bear Butte as well, people that are coming into the collective. They're going to be up in Sturgis. We can say, oh yeah, you can find a similar experience up with Michelle. So I think that's also another deal, is aggregating these people and just kind of rounding up the wagons, so to speak, getting the people that want to buy clean food and good food, and getting them kind of giving them an opportunity outside of, the local food co-ops. And that'll help strengthen the food co-ops as well, getting more people buying local foods so that everybody wins is kind of the big picture. Anybody else have any questions for me? Or any suggestions too?
Laura, I see you have your hand raised. You can go ahead and unmute and
Okay.
ask.
Hi, I'm Laura Peening. I'm a member, but I'm just a consumer. So I was thinking about Saturdays with the farmers market. How are you working with them? Are the vendors gonna be conflicted or have to duplicate? Because you said you're doing
Well,
Saturday. Good.
yeah, the nice thing about having it on Saturday is a lot of the vendors come from a long distance to go to the farmers market. So that could be a day that they could drop their stuff off since they're already going to be in town. So that's kind of why we picked the Saturday.
Okay,
So it'll be complimentary to the farmers market. So it'll basically just be another space for them to sell product.
okay. And you'll be there longer than just Saturday, so
But we're there every day.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that they can leave it, which they can't the other way. Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and a lot of times people can't make the Saturday farmers market, but they still want to buy produce from, whoever's at the market. And so this will
Right.
be an opportunity for them to actually, pick that stuff up any day of the week.
Right, they could start to say to people, if you can't make Saturday, go, stop by the collective on Monday through Wednesday.
Exactly. And a lot of consumers or a lot of producers aren't big enough to be in places like the bread route. I mean, we're in the bread route, Peggy's in the bread route, but a lot of people aren't big enough because they just don't have enough volume. But this will be an opportunity for a
Okay,
producer of any size
okay,
to
that's
get it.
good to know the difference. Got that.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
yeah.
and who are you getting your CSA stuff from? Just the local people, just the local farmers?
It'll be all the vendors that are involved in the collective.
It'll be from the vendors, okay.
Yeah. So, right now we've got seafood, we got meat, we've got produce, we've got honey, we've got cheese, we got basically every category.
Yeah,
I just want to put it up, because a lot of times farmers markets are going to close to vendors because they've already got a vendor of something or whatever. And I don't want to do that. I
okay,
want to make it open to anybody of any size. If you
okay,
want to play, you can come play. My only consideration is it has to be clean. Because that's how Evergreen is. It's a clean product. And I just want to keep that theme going because there's a huge demand for it.
yep,
And that's really kind of my only requirement. So it doesn't matter how big or small you are. If you want to, but so it's really great for somebody who's just starting out
yep,
because you got marketing paid for, you got a set customer base, and all you have to do is get the stuff to us, and we'll get it on the shelves and sell it.
yeah. Okay, good. Well, I'll be stopping by soon.
Yeah, good. Well, Thursday is right now we're open Thursday through Sunday. It's from 10 to 8. And Saturday, Sunday we do a brunch. And then, we're also going to have a beer and wine license. It's on its way. I think we get it this week. So that'll be kind of fun. We'll do local beers and wines too. Any other questions from anybody?
All right. Well, if anyone thinks of anything, feel free to put it in the chat. But otherwise, we'll move over to Anna, who's going to talk to us about getting involved in Farm to School.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And I see lots of familiar names and some that I don't know. So I'll share some basics of Farm to School as well as some new things for maybe those who have heard this a few times. But I'm excited to be on the same call as Cindy and learn about that project because it is incredible and it will help break down many of the barriers to Farm to School, which of course is meeting quantity demands that schools might have, transportation, or even the commercial kitchen requirement for fruits and vegetables that are processed. So I think very complementary presentations tonight. But with Farm to School, some of the basics to get us started. So Farm to School is anything that connects the community, is a program that enriches the connections community has with fresh, healthy foods and local food producers by changing the purchasing and education practices at schools and early care and education sites. So diving into that a little bit further, when we say Farm to School, it's really a very broad term for lots of different types of practices. So local procurement is the main one that I work with, as well as I think the main one that probably a lot of you are interested in, which of course is that buying local foods at schools to serve in meals or snacks. But alongside those are two more. So education, really teaching kids about local foods, whatever that may be. And then school gardens, but I think I'd rather call this one, if we can give it a South Dakota name, I would call it hands-on agriculture, because while nationally Farm to School is heavily focused in fruits and vegetables and gardening, of course, we know in South Dakota, that is still a very important element, but we have a great livestock and animal industry. So sometimes that could even mean maybe some hands-on animal husbandry. So with Farm to School, there's several benefits of students being the first one. It's, data shows pretty clearly that in fruits and vegetables, at least when they're served locally, that kids eat them more. And of course, we want kids eating more fruits and vegetables. Schools get greater meal participation. So more students eating school meals, maybe more parents or teachers eating school meals, great for the school meal budget. Producers having that stream of sales opportunity that can be a large market and a consistent market. And then community, just speaking with several of the schools that are in South Dakota doing Farm to School, I've seen firsthand how much that it can really be a community building effort. Lots of support from school board or parents really getting behind those local producers and the school lunch program. So just a handful of the main benefits there. But again, as Farm to School is pretty broad, it isn't only schools that it can go to, and spaces might not be considered a farm. So as Cindy was mentioning, any size, right? So maybe it's more of a garden that the food is coming from, orchards, greenhouses, ranches, really however you define where food is produced, whatever type of food that may be. And schools aren't the only setting that those local foods could go to benefit children's nutrition. So daycares, early childhood education settings, after school programs, and summer programs are a few more of those places where we would still call it Farm to School, even though it really does mean kind of that broad catch-all term of anywhere kids are eating. I work closely with the Department of Education, Division of Child and Adult Nutrition Services, so the CANS office, and they're the ones who operate all of the federal child nutrition programs. So whether that's the school breakfast program, school lunch program, fresh fruit and vegetable program, which serves a snack at some lower income school districts, summer meal programs, the child and adult nutrition programs, there's really so many. And so we want people to know that it is possible to do Farm to School at schools, absolutely, but as well as really any setting where there's a group of kids eating. So, and like I said, nationally, Farm to School is very heavily focused on fruits and vegetables, but here in South Dakota, we want to put emphasis on the whole plate. So local foods can span the tray. We produce grains, we produce vegetables, fruits, milk, and meat or meat alternatives in South Dakota, and those absolutely can be a part of Farm to School local food sourcing. So whatever you produce or know a producer for, there's a place for it on the tray. One other thing I'd like to emphasize here with this too is that Farm to School does not need to be a all or nothing endeavor for a school. it is hard to meet the quantity demands of schools, and while it might be a bit more attainable for the smaller districts, and we've got lots of them in our state, if you're looking into supplying some of the larger districts, even thinking about Rapid City schools, they're very interested in farm to school and they want to buy local, but are very aware that they're probably not going to get every baked potato they need for a day from a local producer. And it would be awesome if they did. I don't want to say that that's not possible. But there's a general awareness and understanding amongst school food service directors across the state that it doesn't have to be every product needed to fill every tray for their district in one day or every day. Right? It could be something that supplements the lunch meal. It could be a side dish. It could be something that's served on the salad bar. It could be the meat needed just for one elementary school. So examples there that we want farm to school to be a place where anyone feels that they can take a step forward and find a way to get started and then maybe grow from there and see how it goes. When selling to schools, there's just a few things to keep in mind. So I mentioned that these are federal nutrition programs that we're talking about, and most schools are participating in those. I don't know really of any schools particularly that aren't, maybe one or two in the reservations. But by and large, if it's a school, they are participating in the federal nutrition programs. So those regulations come from the national government. The state is the ones who administer the program across the state, and then the local food authorities, so that would be the school district, are the ones who operate the programs and have to follow those rules. But at each level, it can become a little more strict on what they require. But nationally and in the state, we're very like to promote local foods and want to eliminate any barriers that there could be to getting local foods into schools. So, you know, there's not a requirement for a specific it's like safe handling, you know, like there's no GAP certification needed. There's pretty minimal requirements in order to enter school meal programs, but there are a few things that have to be in place just to maintain food safety. So one of those is that whole fruits and vegetables can be sold as is. So that being just the cut needed to harvest. However, if they are processed any further, so if you have, you know, carrots that have the greens chopped off, or really any type of processing, if it's, you know, sweet corn that has already been sliced off the cob and frozen, those things are processed, and so they have to be done in a commercial kitchen. So wonderful to hear that there's one going in Rapid City. And then beef must be slaughtered and processed in state or federally inspected facilities. That doesn't just go for beef, actually. It would apply for sure for bison and really any other animal product that the Animal Industry Board in South Dakota maintains. So a few regulations there, but by and large, it can be done, and the requirements are, I think, less than maybe perceived from the beginning when someone sets out to do farm to school. So that's the good news. Here in South Dakota, we have a few ways for you to engage and several people here to support you. So we have the South Dakota Farm to School Network, which is really just getting off the ground over the last couple of years. And last summer, we developed this structure for our team. And that includes the Farm to School core team. They're kind of the nucleus of the cell that you see on the top. And that is the glue that holds the network together. It's us who have paid staff time from our organizations to really carry out the administration of the Farm to School Network. So myself, Janelle Peterson, is down in the center of that photo with the Department of Education. And we have Megan Eisenvoss between the two of us is with Dakota Rural Action. And then now we have Casey Burris as well with SPA. Outside of that, the Farm to School Network, the golden space, is anyone in South Dakota who has an interest or stake in farm to school. So community members, producers, schools, everyone that is interested can be a part of that hub of information networking and building community. And then sometimes there are special projects that we have, which working groups are formed around. So that would include a member of the core team and then a member of the network to do a specific project, such as I think coming up, we'll have one for planning a farm to school event. The mission is that a thriving South Dakota Farm to School Network supports the development of place-based farm to school activities and the growth and awareness of what farm to school is and its benefits. Our network connects child nutrition and education professionals, producers, and support organizations. Through the development of practical guidance, educational resources, effective communications, and strategic direction, the core team serves as the glue that strengthens the farm to school network. And I like the word that our team chose was place-based. So that's another thing about farm to school, is that there's no program necessarily statewide. We have our network that supports place-based farm to school activities, because every community is different. You have different producers locally, different schools with different desires or needs. And so there is no one size fits all for farm to school, and thus it is determined by each community what farm to school looks like for them, and we are here to support it. So coming up with farm to school, we've got a few action items taking place over the next 1 to 2 years. One that is about done with the Department of Education is to develop a South Dakota farm to school logo and launch a farm to school website. So I'm excited to have that one come to be and share that out in the next month or two. We are facilitating sharing information, knowledge, and experience between farm to school stakeholders through regular in-person regional gatherings. We actually just finished 4 of these last month, and are looking forward to maybe some again next year. And as another one we haven't done but are looking forward to is hosting an annual in-person South Dakota farm to school gathering, and exploring ideas of when the best time could be to have our first annual farm to school gathering. And then third is education based. So enhancing the capacity and capabilities of stakeholder groups by compiling all of the resources that our state has, as well as nationally, to support farm to school, because there really are a lot and we want them to be easily accessed. We are updating our farm to school resource guide, which just got done a couple years ago, but things have changed rapidly and we've learned a lot, as well as updating our beef and bison to school FAQ, which should be done this summer. And I'm really excited to get that one published. We've also will be developing trainings on both of those publications. Ways for you to get engaged would be to attend our Farm to School Network quarterly calls. The next one is in June. And to sign up for the Farm to School Network newsletter, so that this really is your in to the Farm to School Network. This means technically that you're a member then, and from there you get to choose how much or how little you'd like to participate in the different events that we host, and just stay up to date on all of the resources that we have available. Every fall, there's a crunch off, so keep this in the back of your mind. This is a competition against states in the Mountain Plains region. So I think it's about 13 states to see who can get the most crunches per capita into a local fruit or vegetable. It's a good entry point as we get a lot of schools excited about doing the crunch off. It can be a great opportunity to sell an item for the first time and say, hey, this can go towards your crunch off efforts. But it can be done anywhere, even on the farm or in a community or at your home. We have the South Dakota Farm to School Resource Guide. I'll put a link to these in the chat that I mentioned, as well as that current version of the Beef and Bison to School FAQ. And then nationally, a couple of people to be aware of would be the USDA Patrick Leahy Farm to School program that offers grants, the Farm to School Census, which provides data on how farm to school is being implemented across the country and in our state, at which districts and to what level they are practicing the different elements of farm to school. Provides resources, National Farm to School Network, again, resources, trainings, and then they lean more heavily on policy and advocacy. So here is my contact information. If you would like to follow up, I'd love to chat and hear maybe some ideas that you may have around farm to school. But with that, I think, yeah, I'll take some questions and I'll drop those links in the chat for signing up for the network and accessing those resources.
Great, thank you, Anna. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts on farm to school? Laura, I see your hand is still up. I'm not sure if that's from before or if you have a question for Anna.
It was from before, but I am curious. I'll think of one. I'm curious. So I'm in Rapid City. So how prevalent is the program in Rapid City? What can we do I'm interested in what the community can do to help with these kinds of things. I'll lower my hand.
You know, in Rapid City, so I'll say I'm from the Sioux Falls Brookings area, and I feel like whenever I talk to someone from West River, I get a message that, you know, things must be like so much, there's probably things going on in the east side, but like West, you know, like we want to do stuff too. And I always feel like the Rapid City area and West River is doing like really awesome things. And honestly, we get more attendance at stuff in Rapid City than Sioux Falls. Like I think that it's booming more on the west side than on the east side.
Okay.
But I would say, so we do have like Rapid City Catholic schools, for example, they are doing farm to school. Rapid City Public Schools is doing farm to school. I know that even the YMCA in Rapid City and Youth and Family Services are doing farm to school. Like those are 4 major locations. Like that is a lot of the Rapid City youth, right? Like, so I would just recommend I can get you in touch with contacting their food service directors. And they, I would say in all of those locations have really great connections with the education side of their programs too, and could even connect you with like the teachers doing in-class stuff.
So
Yeah.
I'm just tell me if you want me to shut up. So I'm just curious, how much do you, when you say they're connected, so how much of the food is really non-processed, locally grown food? I mean, I'm sure it varies, but I mean, what's it look like if they actually do?
Yeah, it does vary. I think it's a small portion, you know, especially for the larger the district, the smaller the portion. And I don't know for sure, you know, that census that I mentioned is coming out again this fall. They already collected the data and we should see it again soon. But you know, I would say it's pretty small and there's a lot of room to grow, but there's excitement to grow.
I guess
So-
go ahead.
Oh, Laura, I was going to say, I know at Sturgis Meats for Evergreen Ranching, we supply Meade County with a big chunk of their ground beef.
Right.
Yeah, not all of it, obviously, because they have USDA subsidized, you know, ground beef that they actually get for free
Oh,
in cases. So, but we do supply a big chunk of their meat. So
guess
that's kind of cool.
my real question is, how much of that, are they actually making food in the schools anymore here? Because I mean, I come from larger cities and I used to substitute teach. And you know, man, it was Doritos and Taco Bell. So are they making the food here?
I think there's definitely districts that are making every district is making something to some degree. But there are districts that no longer have the capacity to handle raw meat. That
Okay.
does exist, but there's so many districts that are doing raw meat, like Cindy, you know, just mentioned Meade County, right? Like that's a pretty big district. Even, I mean, I've seen examples from, well, this isn't a school, but a Head Start program out in Piers using local wheat to make cookies, to make bread. I mean, there are,
They try.
it's a whole spectrum.
I also think a lot of this is making it easy for the consumers. So, you know, food service people at these schools really want to do this program. And I think by aggregating producers and providing a real easy way to do it, I think it's really going to help. And that's one of the things that the collective that I'm really going to target is all of our producers can be involved in this program. They may not be able to do it singly because they're too small. And it's a lot of work for the, you know, the individual school districts, but it's always better if you can work together. So by aggregating producers and, you know, rounding up all the available green beans or whatever, instead of just green beans from one farm. I mean, that's really helpful. And then having this opportunity to flash freeze and freeze dry stuff, it really prolongs the season for the farm to school projects. Cause that is a big deal is our farm to school programs are totally opposite of our growing season for produce. So.
We do have one question in the chat that I'm hoping Anna you can answer, and maybe Cindy you can jump in from the producer perspective. Excuse me. So as a producer, do we need to get a grant from somewhere to sell to a school? The person asking the question is a little unclear on how it works at the granular level. All they feel like they've heard is kind of concept. So maybe you can walk me through what it looks like for a producer from getting connected to the network to actually selling to schools.
Yeah, and Cindy, I'd be interested in hearing your how it's gone for you getting connected with those schools too. I mean, I think that it could be the school that approaches you in many cases. It could be you that approaches school in many cases. So it can go either way, but you do not need to have grant funding to do farm to school. Schools do get federal money to use on food purchases, but they also have their own school lunch accounts. So they have a couple different buckets that they use to buy foods. And while their federal dollars are used for commodity products through like the mainstream services, their school lunch or school meal nutrition budgets can be used on anything. So they get to have their own discretion on buying local foods. And so you don't need a grant to enter that. It really just unfortunately, I wish there was a clear-cut answer, but it comes down to conversation and relationship between that school buyer and producer grower to establish price points that are fair for both organizations, and the different processes that work as far as transportation. Like there really aren't requirements on how it needs to flow, and so it comes down to that conversation and relationship. But Cindy, yeah, I'd be interested to know how it's gone for you living that process out.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And a lot of it is educating the school districts as well as producers. So for example, Meade County has X amount of ground beef needs every month. And so one of the things that as a local producer, if you're asked to provide that, you need to count on it. You need to know that you're going to be providing 1,000 pounds a month. And so there's a lot of things that still need to be worked out, but that's one of the advantages of aggregating as producers is, all of a sudden you can be involved, but you don't have to be having 50 producers talking to one food service person at a school district is really clunky for both sides. And that's one of the things with food hubs and the farmers markets and that type of thing. It's really great when one person can take the lead on that. And I think that's going to be really important as this evolves, because we really are just growing this together right now. I mean, it's a learning process, but for us, it's worked out really well. But I like to know how many pounds of whatever product they're going to need for the school year in advance. And I need to have them commit to it. That's on the meat side. Meat's easy though, because it's a frozen product, or it can be.
So if there was a producer kind of looking to start this farm to school journey and looking to have a conversation with a school district, if they get connected to the farm to school network, is that something that can be facilitated, or do you provide assistance for the producer to kind of help approach the school district?
Yeah, what we just completed were regional buyer grower meetups. So that's one example. And they just finished. So we'll have to do them again. But you could come to that, as well as we invited many districts to come to that. And so, well, anyone was open to it and many did attend. So that was a one-on-one sit down with several districts and kind of meet and greet, as well as just a brief introduction of what you sell and what they're interested in. So many people did come away from that with some takeaways. But we're working on one of the things that's going to go on that website is a farm to school map. So all the schools that are interested or actively participating in farm to school, and then all of the locations that are selling. So that would be one interactive way to get listed or even find a location. Myself and Janelle especially could connect lots of people together. We've made lots of connections for farm to school. So especially as a grower, we have connections with those schools if you want that handoff to maybe spark that meet and greet a little more. And then the last thing I'll mention too is there from a training from the USDA, there's a worksheet that I really like that was questions to ask in a meeting between the buyer and the grower. And so I can pull out that worksheet too and just send that along because there's lots of good questions to take into those meetings. Conversation point.
The other thing too, with farm to school and any of these, selling to institutions, it's, everybody thinks that the school doesn't have a budget and they can't pay for stuff, but they can. They actually have a really good budget and they really want to get this going. So I would encourage any producer to get involved in farm to school. We need to be more involved, just my personal company, my Evergreen Ranching and Sturgis Meats. We need to get more involved in farm to school in general, because it's a really good program. So I would encourage everybody to get involved at some level.
Thanks, Cindy.
Sure.
Well, thank you both, Anna and Cindy, for sharing.